Hey folks, welcome to Thursday, a rainy day here at WT White. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to Advisory. The topic for advisory that I have for today is not a fun one, but it is a very important one to think about and to talk about openly, which is suicide awareness. It's always a tough topic to talk about because there are many people among us that have been affected one way or the other by either depression or suicidal thoughts. And while it is a tough topic, and while it may be hard to think about sometimes, it is important to talk about because the more that we talk about it, the less we stigmatize it, the more that people that have these thoughts can get the help that they need. And that's what today's video is about, the ways in which we can help ourselves and those who have these thoughts or experience these feelings. I made a video about this last year. So we're going to see a return of the long-haired Hall, and I also filmed this with a very bad camera at my home with a weird backdrop, so if it looks different or weird, that's why. Although I gotta say, other than the hair length, not much has changed. So please pay attention to this video, even if it's difficult to. While we are going to be talking about suicide, we're going to be talking about it in terms of statistics and ways that people can get help. Please pay attention to this as the information that you hear may save someone's life at some point in the future. So with that said, let's go to long-haired Mr. Hall.
In 2020, there were 3,924 reported suicides. It is the second leading cause of death for ages 15 to 24 in the United States. And according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, otherwise known as NAMI, 20% of high school students report serious thoughts of suicide. 9% have made an attempt to take their lives. And this quote at the bottom here is from Harry Miller, a successful Ohio State football player with a 4.0 GPA who also struggled with thoughts of suicide as well as an attempt. He says, "This is not an issue reserved for the far and away. It is in our homes, it is in our conversations, it is in the people we love." So we know that it's a prevalent problem. We know that it affects many of us either directly or indirectly. And so what can we do about it? Well, here are the warning signs for someone who may be considering suicide. Please note that any one or two of these signs may not be a sign for suicide, but many of them added up together may be. They include acting emotional and crying excessively, changes in sleeping or eating patterns, being more moody or depressed than usual, extreme changes in behavior, neglecting personal appearance and grooming, always feeling tired or run down, loss of interest in activities or hobbies that normally make the person happy, loss of appetite or weight loss, abusing alcohol or drugs to deal with feelings, unusual anger, aggression, or violent behavior, looking for access to lethal means, deliberately cutting, burning, or otherwise hurting oneself, talking, writing, or hinting about death, suicide, or ending it all, giving away personal items as possessions, being very self-critical, withdrawing from friends, and wanting to be left alone. Again, some of those warning signs by themselves may just be a temporary thing for the person, but if you start to see things adding up, it may be time to start asking questions. The following are some individual, some community, some relational, and some societal risk factors for increasing the risk of suicide in people. Risk factors for an individual may include a history of depression or other mental illness, personal loss, previous attempts at suicide, criminal or legal problems, abuse or other serious traumas in the person's life, or a serious illness like chronic pain. Relationally, if someone is experiencing bullying, if a family or loved one has a history of suicide, if there has been a loss of relationships, high conflict or violence in relationships, or social isolation, those could also be risk factors. In the community, if there is a lack of access to healthcare, both physical healthcare and mental healthcare, it could be a problem. If there is violence in the community or historical trauma and discrimination, also could lead to higher risk of suicide. Societal factors could include a stigma associated with help-seeking and mental illness, easy access to lethal means of suicide among people at risk, and unsafe media portrayal of suicide. This would include the romanticization of suicide, kind of like in that show 13 Reasons Why, which was a big Netflix show a few years ago. That's an example of unsafe portrayal of suicide in the media. Anytime it is romanticized or made to be something that it's not. Luckily, in addition to risk factors, there are also protective factors that could be put in place to prevent suicide. On an individual level, these include effective coping and problem-solving skills, reasons for living, which could be friends, family, pets, the future, whatever it is. A strong sense of cultural and personal identity can also protect someone from being attracted to suicide. Relationally, if someone has emotional support from friends, partners, and family, that can help, and also a feeling of connectivity to the others around them. In a community, the feeling of connectivity to the school, community, and other social institutions can help, as well as an availability of consistent and high-quality physical and mental health care. Societally, a reduced access to lethal means of suicide among those at risk, cultural, religious, or moral objections to suicide, and a reduced stigma around seeking help and mental illness. You may be wondering what happens if it's not me that is considering these thoughts, but a friend, someone that is close to me. These are the things that you can do to help those that are hurting themselves or considering suicide. If a friend needs help, don't ignore the warning signs, those that we just went over. Take any mention of suicide seriously, even if it may be in a joking fashion. Listen and be supportive. Let your friend know that you will help. Encourage them to talk to a trusted adult. And that's a very important point, okay? You are not in this alone in your attempt to help your friend who may be going through this. Find a community of support, maybe starting with a trusted adult to help you with this situation. Help your friend find school or community resources, such as counselors, and don't keep it a secret from others who can help. Some things that are shared in confidence between friends should be kept secret. This is not one of them. If someone that you know is hurting themselves or considering suicide, don't keep it a secret. Find someone and get help. A common misconception about self-harm and suicide is that if you, as their friend, bring up something about this, that you may give them the idea or push them towards it. The truth is actually the opposite. What doesn't seem to increase the risk of suicide is talking about the importance of mental health, talking about the importance of reaching out to people who are struggling, or if you're struggling, reaching out for help. Talking about suicide in general and talking about depression is not going to make things worse. I know this is a very heavy subject, but I really appreciate you taking it seriously. The more we talk about this and the less stigma we have around mental illness or seeking help, the better. If someone you know is considering suicide or displaying clear warning signs, don't hesitate to talk to them and get help from someone else who you trust. And if you are someone who has considered or is considering suicide, please know that you are not a burden to those around you. Please reach out for help. If you need to come talk to me up in H300, you can talk to me. If you need to find a teacher that you trust to talk to, start there. But please reach out.
All right. Thank you for listening to that presentation once again. And I just wanted to also add, if anyone that you know is considering suicide or has had suicidal ideation or maybe is making some sort of plan, or you see these warning signs that we talked about, you can get help through our own Mrs. Pott, who is one of our mental health clinicians. You can also get help started with our counselors. There's lots of resources here, but there's also a national hotline, which is 988. If ever, it's printed on the back of your IDs, I believe, as well. So please know that number, commit it to memory, because if you ever need it, it will be very handy. All right. They are 24/7. They can be reached all the time. You can text them or you can call them if you're ever in crisis. Once again, thank you for listening. I know it's a tough topic, but it's an important one to go over. Be good to yourself and others, and I'll talk to you real soon.